Hello and welcome to Perfect Glamour Fashion. Today we're going to be learning how to make this trending square neckline peplum blouse with side flaps. It's very simple to make and you're going to see it in a bit. Let's get to class. Now, the first thing you're going to be doing is to draw out your basic lines. This is my shoulder to bust point, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to half length, and shoulder to hip line. Okay. Now, I'm done drawing this out, and I'm going to mark my shoulder divided by 2, and I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then for the neck width is 3 inches. Okay, standard. Then I'm connecting this. Next thing I'm going to do is to mark my armhole depth, okay, which is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 or 2, depending on how busty you are. Then I've ruled all the way down. Now I'm going to also come down by another 1/2 inch because I'm on the bustier side. Okay, if you're busty, come down for your shoulder slope should be 1.5, not just 1 for the front only though. Okay, then I've marked my bust divided by 4 and marked, and then I'm going to rule an angle line to form my armhole angle. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to divide that shoulder by 2. We've done this a lot of time on this channel. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do it one more time. Divide the shoulder by 2 and come in by 0.75, especially if you are on the bustier side. Okay, so 0.75 is actually pretty standard though. Then for the armhole side, I'm going to just form an angle 45. Is this 45 now? Okay, so and then I'm going to come in there by 1 inch, because some persons have asked me in the comment section, how do we now know where to rule our lines from if I don't have a pattern master? So this is how you do it. You come in by 1 inch and then connect your lines. You can even do this with freehand or any kind of curved ruler that you have. Okay, so I'm now going to mark my waist divided by 4, and then I'm going to mark it, and then I'm going to mark my hip divided by 4. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is to connect this with a straight ruler or with the curved part of your ruler that is not very deeply curved. And then especially for the hip, use the curved part of your ruler but not the very curved parts. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is to come down for our bust dart. Now for the bust dart, I came down by 1.5 inch because that's the difference between my front half length and my back half length. Then I will mark my bust span on that bust line. So this is my bust span. That is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Okay, and I marked it and connected it. Now the next thing we're going to be doing is to come down by the neck depth you desire. I used 7.5, and then the neck width I used was 4 inches. So 7.5 for the neck depth, then 4 inches for the neck width. You get that now, right? So I'm just using my ruler to make sure that I'm getting a correct square. Okay, so if you want your neck to be wider than the one my own neck on the thumbnail, then you can go ahead and use 5 inches. Now for the neck, I didn't want it to be absolutely square. Okay, so I curved it a little bit. So if you want yours to be like mine, you can also curve it a little bit. Now I had a consideration not to use that, but on a second thought I decided to use that. Now if you're going to be cutting together, if you don't want it to be like a peplum where you will have to attach the down part, then you have to you don't need that. Okay, but because I want it to be a peplum, I'll attach the down part. I'm creating a 1 inch dart, and so I just marked my nipple to nipple measurement on the waistline, and then I marked 1/2 inch on both parts, on both sides of the line. That's how I formed that. Then you will come out from the waist by 1/2 inch, sorry, by 1 inch, so that you can replace the dart that you just took. And then I will use my curved ruler to rule all the way to the bust. Okay, now don't use the deep part of your curved ruler. Now you see I'm not marking anything for the down part of the hip, because the dart is just going to stop at the waist. Okay, now for that flap, I marked 4 inches on the hip line and connected it all the way to the waistline. You see what I'm doing now? I'll connect it to my curved ruler all the way to the waistline. Now this is what we have. This is all we have for the top, for the front part of the top. So I'm going to be cutting out the upper part, the half length up, okay, because I'm using the darts. Okay, so I'm cut that up, and then the down part will be the peplon. It should not have that. Okay, I hope that made sense. All right, so if you're following me up to this point, let me know in the comment section. Just type I'm following, I understand in the comment section. Okay, all right, for the back, I decided to use the same pattern paper that I used for the front for the back. So I'm going to be reusing the lines and adjusting to suit the back measurements. You get that? So the first thing I marked was the zip allowance. I marked 1 inch towards the center back for the zip allowance. Okay, now if you're going to be lining your fabric, you're going to be using 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch for your zip. Okay, after cutting out the pattern, I still shifted to like 1/2 inch so it could give me 1.5 inch. Okay, now I marked the shoulder divided by 2, just like we did for the front, and then I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. Okay, now for the back neck width, I'll first of all come in by 3 inches, which is standard, but I'll still use the 4 inches I used for the front. But for now, I'll come in by 3 inches first and connect it to the shoulder slope. Okay, so after connecting it, then I'll now mark the 4 inch that I will now connect. Okay, so this is just to give me the same, like to be exactly the same thing as the front. Okay, then I'll come down by the armhole length that I used for the front. That's also what I'll use for the back. Okay, then I would connect it all the way down and mark my bust divided by 4, and then I'm just transferring what I have in front to the back. So it's your bust divided by 4, you mark and form your armhole angle. And when you're done doing that, the next thing will be to just rule out the line. Okay, now I'm going to divide the shoulder length, the armhole length, sorry, by 2, and then from that point I'll come in by 0.7.5, which is 1/2 inch. Okay, so and then I'm going to mark this angle again and come up by 1 inch. Okay, come up by 1 inch from that angle, and you're going to connect with your curved ruler. So it's pretty simple to do, and with all those lines and marks, it will be easy for you to just simply connect with your curved ruler, your freehand, or any other ruler that you have. Okay, so now I'm marking the 4 inches neck width that I use for the front. That's what I'm marking now. So I've marked the 4 inch and I came down by 1 inch for the neck depth for the back. Okay, now please pay attention to what I'm about to do. Remember that the front half length is different from the back half length. Okay, for me, the difference between my front half length and back half length is 1.5 inch. That's why that's 1.5 inch that I used as my shoulder slope. So I'm going to go ahead and place my back half length at my back. That's going to be my half length for the back. So I'm ruling it out now, and I'm going to label it as back half length. So when you're taking your measurement, or your client's measurement, take the front half length and then take the back half length too. Okay, because they are usually not the same. Okay, so when I'm done doing this, I'm going to now clean out the line. This is the line from the front that I just extended to the back. So now I'm done doing that. I'm going to now remark my waist to hip, which is 9 inches. Waist to hip is usually 9 inches, but if you are taller, it can be 10, or you can just take the measurement and be sure you are accurate. Okay, so you will see that the difference between this my back hemline is 1.5 inch, like from the front hemline is 1.5 inch. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing now is to mark the dart for the back. So the first thing I'm going to do is to divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2 and mark. I'll connect it all the way. Okay, it should stop at the waistline, but I connected it all the way to the hemline. It doesn't really matter. Okay, all right, so and then I'm going to rule out this chest line. So just rule a straight line across from that your armhole curve all the way down, and then connect the nipple to nipple line all the way up to that place. Okay, then from the waist, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides of the line on the waist only. Okay, and I'm going to connect it all the way up to that chest line. That's all for the darts. okay, because I'm not using it down in the hip region. So I'll mark my waist divided by 4. That's this all I will need if I'm not using the darts. But because I'm going to use the dart, I'm going to add 1 inch allowance for the darts to replace the darts. You get that, right? So if you are using the dart, please don't forget to replace your dart. If not, your measurement will be short. Okay, now for the downside, just the way we did for the front, I'm marking 4 inches, or you can use 4.5 inch, anyhow you want to do it, but 4.5 is pretty okay. And then I'm going to connect it all the way to the waist. Okay, so this is what we have. Just like I said in front, if you're not using the dart, then if you're not cutting it out as peplum, then you don't even need the dart. Now for the to eliminate zip budge, watch what I'm doing. I came in by 1/2 inch from the center front, then I went up by 1/2 inch and down by 1/2 inch, and then I'll connect from this 1/2 inch. I'm going to from this 1/2 inch I went up by, I'm going to connect it all the way to the neckline, and then I'm going to connect the other 1/2 inch all the way down towards the hip. And watch how I'm using my curved ruler to just curve it out so that there will be no, poking happening there. You see that with that I've eliminated the zip budge. And I'll do one more thing. I will take a 1/2 inch dart. Later on, you're going to see me do it later on. Okay, so I didn't remember to do it here, but later on you're going to see me take a 1/2 inch dart. So this is me replacing that dart. Not replacing now, okay, but you can go ahead and replace this dart if you want, but if you want it to be snatched, you don't need to replace it. Okay, for me, I didn't replace it. All right, so I'm just it's a 1 inch sewing allowance for the zip, so I am ensuring that it's 1 inch all the way. You get that, right? I hope you understood that. Okay, so this is me now replacing that half. Now taking that 1/2 inch that I told you about from the half length, just go up by 1/2 inch and just take that dart. This will help you ensure a seamless back. It's going to be so sleek and smooth. There will be no poking, there will be no anything going on. Okay, all right, so if you followed me up to this point and you have not liked this video, you are in error. Please go ahead and like this video and share it with your friends that are also fashion designers so that this video can reach other people. Liking it tells the algorithm that, oh, this is a very good video, and the algorithm will push it out to more fashion designers that really want to learn how to make this style. Okay, so please help me do that. And if you are seeing my face for the first time, or you are seeing this video, my channel for the first time, you're welcome to the family. Please do well to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you will be alerted once we post a video. Okay, now for the sewing parts. This is the part I used to like. All right, so for the sewing part, I've gone ahead to cut the fabric, and then I cut the lining also. For the side, I used 2 inches sewing allowance. Then for every other parts, the neck, the half length is 1/2 inch. Okay, this is the front, this is the back. That was the front, this is the back. So I also used 2 inches sewing allowance on the side. I left 2 inches sewing allowance on the side, and then for the up, the shoulder, the half length, and the back. Okay, then for the peplum parts, I also left 1/2 inch sewing allowance rounds. Remember that front that center front will be cut on fold, okay, but the back will not be cut on fold. I hope you understand this. If you have any question, remember I'm in the comment section to answer all your questions. Okay, so now to the sewing proper, the first thing I'm going to do is to join. Remember, for my fabric, I added hairstay to the fashion fabric, the main fabric, and then I added very soft pepper stay to the lining. Okay, so I'll go ahead and sew around the neck, and this is me. I've sewn around the neck, and this is what I have. I'm going to notch, so watch how I'm notching. Notch very close to the thread, but don't cut your thread. Okay, but notch very close to the thread so that you have a neat finishing, and then notch the curved parts. Take out your pins and then top stitch. You're going to go ahead and take it back to the sewing machine and top stitch. You're going to top stitch very close to the neckline, but on the lining. Okay, so I've gone ahead to top stitch. I'm going to go ahead and join the side and close up the side. Okay, now for the back, we're going to do the same thing for the front. We're going to sew the neck, notch, top stitch, and then join the sides. Okay, so I've done that here. I've sewn, you see the way I've notched the neck. I also top stitch, and then I join the sides. Okay, so now that we're done doing that, the next thing we're going to do is to open this up and iron. And also for the peplum side, I also did the same thing. I've joined the lining with the fashion fabric. I also top stitched down, and then I sewed around. Okay, all right, so Now I'll turn this over to the front and I'll iron this. I'll go ahead and iron this very well. This and every other thing that I have there, I will iron very well. Just learn to iron whenever you are making your clothes. It just gives you this neat finishing. Okay, now I've gone ahead to place my darts, transfer my darts from the pattern paper to my fabric. Okay, so I've transferred the darts. This is the side dart, this is the French darts, as you can see, and then I've gone ahead to iron out this. You see how flat it is looking. Okay, so I've gone ahead to join my darts. I'm going to iron it after I've joined it. So every step you take, go ahead and iron. Okay, so now I'm going to be joining the front peplum by finding this midpoint of the front and then attaching it to the midpoint of the peplum. I hope you can see that, right? I'm going to do the same thing for the back. Okay, just get the center back, just push the peplum towards the center back and then pin it and sew all the way. Okay, so after doing that, the next thing we're going to be doing is to join the shoulder. For the shoulder, I'm going to use tucking method. That's to open up one of the shoulder and sew the other one inside it. Okay, so I'm done doing that, and then I'll go ahead also and join the sides of the peplum, and after joining the side, I'll also add zip to it. Okay, so I'm going to do all these things in my sewing machine and I'll be back to show you what it looks like. Okay, now for the sleeve, I folded this fabric by I first of all used hair stay to interface it, and then I folded it by my biceps plus 2 inches for sewing allowance. Then I came down from the side by 4.5 inches. Okay, and then I ruled a diagonal line from that 4.5 inches to the top. You see that now? Then I'll divide that diagonal line into 2, and then after dividing into 2, I'll divide it also into 2, that is into 4 now, into 4 equal parts. On the first part, I'm going to go up by ½ inch. On the second part, I'm going to go down by ½ inch. So this will help me to form my curve. You see that this is my armhole curve. It's very easy to do. So just observe what I did. If you didn't understand what I said, just rewind and then you see it. So I also mark my arm circumference plus 2 inches for sewing allowance. So this is what I have here, and I'm done with my sleeve. Okay, this is the sleeve length I want to use, so you can use whatever sleeve length that you are comfortable with. A shorter sleeve length, a longer sleeve length, it's absolutely okay. So I'm cutting this out and I will notch the center. Okay, as you can see, so I'm going to place this on the lining. I've also gone ahead to interface the lining with the very soft paper stay, and then I'm cutting out exactly what I have on the fashion fabric, that is the main fabric, on the lining fabric. Okay, so after doing this, I'm going to go ahead and trim out the down part by ½ inch. For the lining fabric now, I'm going to trim it out by ½ inch. I also went ahead to trim it out once more because I saw that the allowance that it gave me for turning it in is not as much as I want, so I trimmed it again. Okay, so I'm also going to cut two of the lining, just so I have 2 for the main fabric. Now I'm going to go ahead for joining. I'm going to join the down part, top stitch it, and then join the sides. Okay, so back to our now for where I will place that my flap for the shoulder. I just want it to stop where the neckline stops. You can make your own to go even lower, you can make it to be higher, but I would advise you make it lower, not higher. Okay, so it's not just be standing like that. Okay, so I've gone ahead to mark where the standing flap for the sleeve would be, and then I marked the same thing at the back of the shoulder. And then I'll now measure. This is to know how long the flap is going to be for the shoulder. So I'll measure and see what I have. So from the front to the back, what do I have? I think I had 10 or 11, I can't remember, either 10 or 11 inches. So you measure what you have, 10 or 11 inches, whatever be the case. Now I will also do the same thing for the down part, that is the peplum part. I'll measure what do I have for my peplum. I think I had 10 on both sides, so that gave me 20. Okay, now how many inches do you want to fly? You know, it had, after the peplum, it had some extra flap that was just flying around, so I used another 10 inches for that extra. Okay, though I reduced it after I was done. I used 10 inches initially and then reduced it to 8, so you can use however you want. You can use 10, you can use 6, you can use 5, just to add the extra. But whatever you add the extra to be, just go ahead and add it to the measurements. Okay, now for folding the flap, for getting the flap, I want it to be 3 inches in width. Yours can be 4 inches, yours can be 5 inches, but I feel like 3 inches was small and I like the way it looks. Okay, so for the 3 inches, I want 3 times 2 is 6, plus sewing allowance, which is 1 inch, that is 7. So this is 7 inches width, and the length that I had measured round the flap. You get that now, right? Okay, then for the sleeve also, I just used I wanted it to be like 2.5 inch. Okay, so I used 6 inches for the width. Okay, so this is 6 inches width, and then I cut this out. Remember, I'm cutting on fold because it's going to be 2. Okay, so I've also gone ahead to use gum stay. I used 2 layers of gum stay for the peplum flap at the peplum area, then use 1 layer of gum stay for the flap at the shoulder area. Okay, now I'm marking the length of the shoulder. That's length I measured around the shoulder area. That is where the flap will start from and where it will stop. I'm marking it now. I'll mark it and then I'll add 1 inch as sewing allowance, so that I'll use it to join this flap now inside. Okay, before turning it over. So whatever you got from that, your measurements around your armhole that you want it to be, then you add 1 inch for joining allowance. Okay, for sewing allowance. Okay, now I'm done doing this. The next thing I also did was to go ahead and join it. Now for the flap around the peplum, I joined it all the way around, but I left a little space where I will turn it from. Okay, so I left a little space where I will turn it from. So after doing all the joining, I also went ahead to iron the top. So this is the top after being ironed. I'm now going to join the sleeve. Now watch how I join the sleeve. I'll first of all fold the flap into 2, get the midpoint, and then place it at the shoulder. Okay, the midpoint of the shoulder. Okay, so and then I'll attach it with pin. Then I'll bring my sleeve also, and then I've already notched the midpoint of the sleeve when I was cutting it and sewing it. Okay, this is what the sleeve looks like after joining it and ironing it. So I'll place the midpoint on that same midpoint of the flap. Okay, so after placing it, I will also use pin. I like to work with pins first before getting to the sewing machine because it makes it easier for you to sew. So I'll use pin and attach it, but I will not attach it all the way around before going to the sewing machine, but at least I will attach it that's upper parts, okay, so that it wouldn't shift. Okay, then I will take it to the sewing machine and sew round and attach my sleeve just the way I would have attached my sleeve on a normal day. Then I also did the same thing for the flap. Now for the flap, I will for the peplum, sorry, I would divide the flap by 2 just the way I did for the shoulder. Okay, so I'll divide it by 2 and then I'll mark that point where it is half. Okay, and then I'll place it on the waistline and then attach it with my pin, and then go all the way down with my pin before I get to the sewing machine. You see the way it is now, and then I'll go to the sewing machine and sew this round. And with that, I'm done with this top. What do you think? Tell me in the comment section if you're going to sew this top and if you're going to rock this top. See you in my next video. For now, goodbye.